Greetings, good people. It's Mina. Today's video, I wanted to start to talk about what is meant when I speak of the control booth, getting in the control booth. So, the first thing I wanted to mention is where the idea of being in the control booth actually came from for me. As I began to study yoga more as a philosophy, one of the things I learned about was how we are all looking for pleasantness in our lives. So, yoga philosophy would teach us that when we have pleasantness in our bodies, that is called health. When we have a lot of pleasantness in our bodies, or when we experience a lot of pleasantness in our bodies, that is identified as pleasure. When we have pleasantness in our minds, that is identified as peace. And when we have a lot of pleasantness in our minds, that is identified as joy. When we have pleasantness of emotion, it's identified as love. When we have a lot of pleasantness in our emotion, it is identified as compassion. When we have pleasantness in our life energies, it's identified as bliss or blissfulness. And when we have a lot of pleasantness in our life energies, that would be identified as ecstasy. Now, the only thing that would be an outward representation of pleasantness would be our surroundings, and that would be identified as success. But the first four, the body, the mind, the emotion, and the energies, are all things that are within our full capacity to control. And the only thing that requires cooperation from other forces is our would be success and would be our surroundings, obviously. So I wanted to begin to have 100% of my instruction and what I wanted for myself, for my mind, for my body, for my emotion, and for my life energies to be coming from me and to be generated from me, because I wanted to begin to experience more pleasantness in all of those ways and thus experience more love, joy, health, peace, compassion, bliss, etc. So that began my journey in making I See Me mission for myself, basically, and deciding that I was going to get in the control booth of myself and of my mind, of my energy, of my emotion, and of my body. And I also wanted these things to be aligned and to set the same intentions for myself as a whole person, or as a whole presence, I would say. And I began to use yoga as a technique, or as a technology, really, to begin to take more acknowledgement of the actual control that I have over my energies and my body, my mind, my emotion. And I wanted to obtain flexibility, or I wanted to achieve a level of flexibility, not just physical flexibility, but again, emotional flexibility, mental flexibility, energetic flexibility, to be able to deal with and face my surroundings that I could not control very much. Now, you can and you do have some impact on your surroundings, right? and you do influence your surroundings. But things are not within your 100% control what happens in life, particularly when it comes to my workplace. I wanted to show up to work as a person that was flexible and that was ready to accept change and able to adapt quickly to change, both in my ability to learn quickly and to respond quickly and to adjust quickly to new circumstances, but also in life, outside of work, I should say. I wanted to begin to go from not just being a person, but being an actual presence, acknowledging that I am a spiritual being having a physical experience. So, where am I now in this journey is I do continue to use yoga and meditation. And when circumstances happen, because I have vibrationally, energetically, physically prepared myself through my yoga practice and through my meditation practice, which mine typically takes place very early in the morning. And I've said it in other videos. I consider smiling to be my actual first yoga pose that I do, because that's the first thing that I do when I wake up is I actually smile. Now, you will hear Sadhguru and other yogis and just other spiritual philosophers say, sometimes people dance to generate joy or to get exuberant, but then there are others of us, I would say like my daughter, who dance because the exuberance is there. Her very life force is so excited and so happy that she just dances because that's how she expresses that. Now, for me, when I began this practice, the smiling, it was first just a practical practice. It's just something that I did. Now, it really has become an expression of my very awareness that I'm alive, my child is alive, I have so much to look forward to, I'm eager for my day. So even though I consider it my first yoga pose, there is a level of underlying a predominantly pleasant or joyful set point that I've achieved for myself that does lead me to smile every morning. And it's really an amazing and wonderful transformation that has occurred for me. And it's been about a year now, coming up on a year since I've began my practice. So how I use the yoga is very specific to what I knew I needed to do as far as the parts of my body that needed flexibility, that needed openness, that need consistent attention, right? So all of us have either where maybe we lean to the right a little bit too much, or we clench our shoulders a lot, or we're tight in the mouth. Everyone has expressions of things that we call anxiety, or we call stress, or we call our personalities sometimes, that through yoga practice and through certain movements and certain postures, we can begin to release those things and open those channels up and begin to relax that part of our body and then that part of our energy to become more open to the intention that we are setting for it, and not be such a shell or resistant or inflexible or subject to circumstance or reactionary. I hope this is making sense for someone out there. So, a lot of times when I think about being in the control booth, one of the things that I've thought about over the year is a movie that I saw with my daughter called Inside Out. And the movie came out many years ago, and they were like little characters in an actual control booth. So sometimes I do actually see a control booth, and I do think to myself, you can get in there. And what do you need to bring peace to yourself? What do you need to relax? Do you need to breathe? Do you need to drink water? Do you need to perhaps visualize the beach? Do you need to feel the sand under your feet? Do you need to go to the beach? Do you need to go to your yoga mat? Do you need a nap? If you can't, take a nap right at that moment, right? But what can you do to, again, achieve the control of your emotional, mental, physical, energetic state? And I do what I need to do to get myself back in alignment with my intention for myself, which is to be predominantly pleasant, which is what I talk about in the trailer of the channel. That my goal in becoming a wonderful person, what I think is a wonderful person, is to be predominantly pleasant, predominantly joyful. And how I achieve that has little or less to do with my circumstances and more to do with how much time I spend maintaining those 4 areas. I hope this has been useful to someone. If you have more questions, we can see what other things you would be interested in hearing about. I would love to get some questions or comments. Please do ask yourself, what do I need? Peace.